Hello guitar friends of YouTube, this is Max here and thanks very much for checking out my video. Today we're very lucky to be looking at these three extremely cool guitars. First up on my far left we have a Korean Epiphone Les Paul Standard from 2003. Secondly, on my near left we have a Gibson USA 2019 Les Paul Standard. And last, but clearly not least, here we have a 2009 Gibson Custom Shop 1958 Les Paul Standard Reissue in the VOS finish, which stands for Vintage Original Spec. I have recorded a song with a back-to-back sound comparison, which we'll get to in a little bit. You can skip ahead if you want, but I hope you'll stick around for the rest of the video. Just so you know, I'll also be making a separate video for each of these three guitars, so don't worry if I don't get too much into the detailed specs in this video. What we're really interested in right now is what they have in common and also what sets them apart from each other. Crucially, we're interested in what are huge price differences. Used prices, the Epiphone costs between £200 and £400. Again, used, the Gibson USA goes for just under £2,000, and you can find the Gibson 1958 for between £3,000 and £4,000 depending on the spec and the condition. A quick disclaimer, this video isn't supported by Gibson or Epiphone or any other manufacturer or retailer, so I'm not going to refer to new pricing. I think the Gibson USA 2019 is still available in this exact spec, but the other two guitars are much older models, so it wouldn't be relevant. In any case, all three of these are quite easy to find on the secondhand market. So what do they have in common? All three guitars are Les Paul Standards, so they all have a mahogany body and a mahogany neck. They have a bound and carved maple top, and they have a bound rosewood fretboard with 22 frets. They all have a 3-a-side headstock, and they have a stop tailpiece with a tune-o-matic bridge. Lastly, they all have two humbuckers with a 3-way selector switch, and they have 2 volume pots and 2 tone pots. These are features that you would expect to find on any Les Paul Standard. The main difference is, now obviously the Epiphone has a different headstock shape from the Gibsons. None of them have thin necks, but the Epiphone is definitely the slimmest, with what you'd call a 1960s slim taper. The USA Standard has a 50s neck profile which is quite chunky, and the 58 has a big, fat, thick neck profile that takes quite a bit of getting used to. Then we have the pickups. The Epiphone has a set of, I guess what you would call generic Epiphone pickups, which are actually very decent for a guitar in this price range. Although on paper, the USA and the Custom Shop both have a pair of Gibson burst buckers, in practice they're actually very different pickups. The USA pickups sound very brash and a lot more present, whereas the Custom Shop pickups are a lot warmer with a lot more low end. Let's have a listen. The setup today is a Trace Elliot Speed Twin 100-watt head set up just on the edge of breakup into a Marshall SE100 load box. On the floor, I have a Frederick Effects Zombie clone just for a little bit of dirty boost. What I'm hearing tonally is that the Epiphone and the 58 sound mellower, whereas the USA is a little bit more aggressive. So you might choose the USA if, for example, you wanted a guitar that's very present in the track, whereas you might pick the Epiphone or the 58 if you wanted a guitar that would bed more naturally in with the other instruments. But anyway, that's enough talking. Let's go straight to the track to hear what it sounds like in the mix. Some of you might be surprised how similar these guitars sound considering the huge price difference. And it's true that to the listener there's barely anything in it. Tonally they're almost identical, but if you listen closely to the performances you can hear a difference. And that, I believe, is what justifies the cost. Okay, so the Epiphone is built to a price in a factory in the Far East. The USA is built, you guessed it, in the USA from slightly more expensive materials. And the 58 is handmade from selected, period-accurate materials by master luthiers. And to an extent that justifies the economics of it, but it doesn't fully explain why someone would pay up to 10 times more for a guitar that sounds basically the same. I believe you need to play these guitars to really understand why a guitarist would part with such a large sum of money for a custom shop when you could get an Epiphone for a couple of days' pay. The psychology of luxury does come into it, in the sense that a lot of people enjoy the specialness of playing such a valuable elite instrument. And conversely, there are some people who are turned off by that and feel more comfortable playing the more affordable version. And that's fine, because as I said, to the listener there's really no difference. But ultimately, although these are all high quality guitars, the materials and craftsmanship of the USA are incrementally better than those of the Epiphone. And in turn, the materials and craftsmanship of the custom shop are incrementally better than those of the USA. Better in detailed ways that may not even be apparent to most people, but if you really know your guitars, it becomes so obvious that you just can't ignore it. I believe that those incremental improvements draw out aspects of my playing that mean that my performance is just better when I play the 58. And you could argue that that's just a way of justifying the expense, but I would counter that I haven't spent a penny on any of these guitars. I have access to use them whenever I want, and I would choose the 58 over the other two 100% of the time. But what do you think? Drop me a comment to let me know where you stand on this. And of course, leave me a like if you've enjoyed the video. As I said, I will be making a video for each of these guitars with more of a deep dive on their individual features, so make sure to subscribe to my channel so you get a notification when I put those up. Thanks again very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.